Welcome back to Tales of the PowerAge. Hi guys, how are you doing?
All right, everyone.
Yeah, looking good. Okay, tonight we're talking about Monsters of Rock, Monsters of Rock 1988. So going back a few years, and as Kerrang probably rightfully headlined on the back of this particular day, this was a day of triumph and tragedy, and we'll get to that as we go through the day. But we're going to kick off first, as we always do, with the build-up, how we got there, what the memories were leading up to this festival. And this one in particular was a culmination of years leading up to this point, which again we'll cover as we go through. So, Jam, I'm going to come to you first.
Yeah, interesting one for me. This after our previous two that we went to, went on the coach, went home on the coach and got home early hours of the morning. This one, we drove. We were of an age. We all had cars. I know I went in a convoy of about 5 or 6 cars, battered old cars. There was still no change. There was still no change of clothing, no change of underpants, no clean clothes. There was an inclusion of a large amount of cans of cheap lager, high strength lager, and the decanting of said lager into 1 gallon plastic containers that you're allowed to take in, of nice, warm, high strength lager, which we then spent most of the morning on the day getting our way through and drinking. So a little bit different. So yeah, there was still no official camping at Donington. However, we all knew you could park up in the car park, put up a tent if you wanted to, or keep in the back of your car. So that was the journey. It was a great journey. It was a lot of camaraderie, all mates together, all in denim, all in leather, most of us in metal jeans or metal gens as they would have been known.
So you went on the. So you drove up on the day then, right?
Yeah, early in the morning. Yeah.
Okay. So, Gav, I don't know if you've got a copy of the ticket. Hi, Gav, I'm going to come to you next, Gav, but have you got a copy of the ticket, Gav, there? Will you have a look? Just have a quick look for it. I'm sure you've got it somewhere. I have, if not. Gaps, what do you remember going up to that day in particular?
Yeah, it was the first time I drove up, 18 years old. I borrowed my mum's really sporty Renault 5 with a 950cc engine. And it had 4 of us. We were 4 up in that, and one of the guys in the car was a good 19 stone. And I remember just driving and trying to get on the motorway, going up the slip road, and we couldn't get above 45 miles an hour. It was just so embarrassing. We finally managed to get on the motorway, and we couldn't get that thing up above 60 miles an hour the whole way up there. Yeah, but it was great. I can't remember what time we got there. But yeah, it was really good going up there. I went up with a couple of people that aren't on this pod that we all know, Tony Ellis and Naz, good old Naz. Haven't seen him for ages. And my brother, it was his first ever experience of a festival, so it was it was great.
I think it's the only occasion where we all went to a gig, but all went separately.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. So Gav, I found mine as well, but if you just put that slightly closer to the camera, Gav.
Mine's a bit faded.
Well, it does say quite clearly on there, no camping is allowed. So we'll get to that in a sec. So, Gav, you went up on the day as well, is that right?
Yeah, in my Morris Minor van. Again, struggling for power. And, I think the intention was to kip in the back of it, in the no camping. But as it turned out, I think we drove back. Yeah, I don't really know. But I just remember the lineup for me was almost perfect. So it was a classic. The anticipation.
Yeah, the lineup was perfect. Sorry, I didn't even mention that, but yeah, mention the fact that we drove up. The lineup was going to be immense.
So good.
So I caught the train up, and as the ticket says, no camping is allowed. But off we went with the trusty tent, and pitched up with thousands and thousands of other people that were also camping with absolutely zero facilities. So I've got a bit of a memory of that camping the night before, it being pretty cold. There were campfires everywhere. Everyone was partying. But the one thing I do remember, the night before and certainly on the morning, it felt like everybody had gone to see Guns N' Roses. So again, the album had only come out the year before, but they've been a phenomenon in terms of their meteoric rise to fame. And actually, they were the second on, right? So Helloween came on first, and then it was GNR. It did feel like everybody had gone to see them. I've been to the 2 years before that, and I'm sure the guys will testify in a sec. It was so busy. I can't remember it ever being so busy, and probably till this year, Gaps. You know, it was a lot better organised, obviously, this year.
Apparently, a lot of people got in through the fence this year. So
this year, wow, didn't know that.
No, not this year. Sorry, this year that we're covering now.
Yeah. So it was clamped down on that. This probably is one of the last old school type festivals, wasn't it? Obviously, they had to learn some stark lessons from it, and you know, Jam, you talking about the gallon. You know, the way you get drinks and stuff like that. A lot of these things just got clamped down on.
Well, you could still take drinks in because they didn't do it in '89.
In '92, you could.
In '90, you could take beer in with gallon canisters. I think that was the first year. But yeah, you're right. This was still very much turn up, pay on the gate, or get your ticket, and then in you go. And even to the point, there was just no security. I mean, I couldn't tell you how many people were camping the night before, but there were thousands and thousands of people camping. But anyway, off we went, and into the hallowed ground that is Castle Donington. So first band on, Gav, what do you remember from Helloween?
Well, we got a few bits and bobs.
Oh, sorry, yeah, we've got the ticket and the program. Yeah, apologies.
So that's just the program, and they carried on doing this style for many years afterwards with the kind of split front page and high gloss. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, and then the merch sheet in the middle, as I said to the guys earlier, it's kind of the amount of choices that you got for t-shirts. It's just incredible. So yeah, you got your baseball shirt there, and you got your poster, the event shirt, and then just look at this,
the most amazing merch sheet ever.
Yeah, I mean, imagine. I mean, I bet there are Maiden fans out there that are just ticking these off. 200 quid a pop now, probably. But yeah, it's such an incredible Kiss-like range of merchandise. Very smart.
Yeah. And they still do that today. So we've seen some of the pictures from the merch stand on the current Maiden tour, and there is a massive collection of t-shirts that you can buy. Yeah. I saw one person comment on Twitter, there's one for every song.
So yeah, the Helloween, I love this band, and I don't know if Gappy, you might have got me into them with the first
possibly, yeah. Well, no, I had Walls of Jericho.
Yeah. So this was promoting the second Keeper of the Seven Keys, Part 2, and it's just a nice tight little set. You know, they were coming to their peak of their early years, as far as I was concerned, and I actually saw them in the November of this year at Hammersmith Odeon, which was the tour they recorded for the Live in the UK album, which I've got here, which is a blooming great live album. If anybody hasn't got it. They were fabulous on that tour. So yeah, yeah, they were really good. Michael was a great front man, and especially in those days, he looked great. Still is, of course. We saw him last year.
Yeah.
But yeah, that photo is great. It's not my photo, so credit to whoever did it. It kind of, I mean, that's a throwback.
Looks like you're going to hit him straight in the face, but I don't think it was really.
It's a throwback to Donington of old with the bottle fights, you know, and the American bands used to always talk about that because they'd never seen that before.
And that bottle's still got a little bit of residue in it, as you can see.
It looks a bit dark as well, worryingly.
And I think this was just before the Dr. Steen as a single as well. But yeah,
no, the Dr. Steen came out. I've got that somewhere. I'll tell you in a minute.
And we'd seen him the year before in Germany, right, Gav?
Yeah. Yeah, well, there you go. That's why. Such a big fan.
So we'd actually seen the German band in Germany, which was pretty cool for them.
Yeah, they're brilliant, and they still are.
So, Gaps, any memories from Helloween?
Yeah. It was one of the bands I was really looking forward to, along with Megadeth and GNR, obviously. But Yeah, they played. They started with a song which I wasn't too keen on, to be fair, and then to play your second song, which is like 15 minutes, was a bit strange. And then Dr. Steen, when did that come out? It came out 1 month prior to the gig, so people would have known that as a single.
Yeah.
And they played Eagle Fly Free, which is off part 2, which didn't come out until about a week or two after the gig. So yeah, they were brilliant. Dr. Steen's still one of my favourite songs. Eagle Fly Free, I'm Alive. It was a fantastic set.
Yeah.
And they got a good reception though, right?
Yeah, they got a great reception, yeah.
Yeah, they did, yeah. He did some call and response, Freddie Mercury style stuff with the crowd as well, and Brits always appreciate that.
Yeah, Future World would have been the one for that, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So good kick-off. Jam, any memories from Helloween?
No, I wasn't into them. I'd be blatant. I wouldn't have been watching them. I would have been having a few beers, preparing myself for GNR. Not going to lie.
Cool. So,
so
GNR.
I wasn't drinking, so I was all right.
Yeah,
So GNR were the next band. I don't really remember much from Helloween. I probably remember more from Germany, but GNR were the next band on. As I've already mentioned, the feeling in the campsite the night before, and certainly going into the festival, was that everybody was absolutely buzzing to see GNR. They'd done a couple of shows at the Marquee in '87, sandwiched between a Tiger Tails gig, which we'd all been to, ironically. Yeah. I think, and don't quote me on this, but I think Stevie James, the lead singer of Tiger Tails at the time, had a bit of a fallout with a couple of the members from GNR, which maybe hastened his exit from the band a couple of years later. But they'd gone from nothing to something really, really big in a really short space of time. Their album sales were going through the roof. Their singles were in the charts. They just smashed something that people wanted to see. So
they should really have been higher up the bill, shouldn't they?
They probably should have been. Yeah, that's probably what I'm trying to get to, because at the time they were the highest selling band by a country mile, with the exception of maybe Maiden. But they were really big, right? So look, I'm going to cover a couple of bits that led up and just touch on the tragedy bit without sort of letting it take over the pod today, because we were all there, we were down the front, and it wasn't great. And even now I look back and think, God, how on earth did I get out of that? So just to put a bit of story around it, even without seeing the set list, and you go to so many gigs, you never really always remember what the starting song was. There are songs in this set I will never forget, and I'll never forget because of what was going on at the time. So I think I would have been probably about 60, 70 rows back in the crowd, in the mosh, as they came on, and they came onto it so easy. But just one memory before that, before they came on, there'd been so much hype and talk about whether GNR would play, because they were so unpredictable even then, with, you know, alleged drug taking around. Well, it's probably true, let's be honest, around, you know, all the other stuff that was going on.
Allegedly now, mate.
Well, there were lots of rumours in the campsite the night before and on the day that they weren't going to play, they weren't going to show. And of course, before they came on, Steve Adler was sat behind the drum kit on the PA, twiddling his sticks, and everyone was just getting so hyped for it. Anyway, they came on, played it so easy. And I think it felt like within 30 seconds of that song being on, I was 4 or 5 rows from the front. And it was absolutely mental. I mean, literally, you had your feet were off the floor just being carried. It was exhilarating. It was fun. It was exciting. Little did we know that the tragedy unfolding before us through that set that was taking place. So I'll hand over to the boys in a minute, but there were people being dragged out all over the show. It was clearly something up when they got to Patience. So if you look at those first 5 songs, I mean, that's just crazy, right? By the time they got to Patience, they'd stopped the show for a while. Axl was trying to tell everyone to move back. They said, we're going to quieten things, slow things down, because it was just, you know, it was mad. They played Patience. Things seemed to really slow down and calm down a little bit after that, and then Sweet Child of Mine, obviously. I managed to, at the end of the set, pull myself out, and it felt like it took an hour to get out of the crowds, because it was just, So, you know, sometimes when you go to these festivals, you can get out in a few minutes. You know, you push your way out to the side and there's a spot. It was just so full. There are some reports there were up to 125,000 people there that day. It felt like even more than that. The way that the stage was set in those days as well, there was quite a slope leading down to the stage. So again, I don't think that helped in terms of the crowd surge. In addition to that, there have been problems with the stage. Part of the stage had fallen over before the gig had started, and they had like a cherry pricker or a truck holding some of it up. And some of the pictures we've shown on previous podcasts of the stage set up and tarpaulin, and you know, looked like it put about £3.50 to put it on.
Yeah, it looked like a village fete.
Dreadful, wasn't it?
Was now coming home to roost. So rock had been really growing from the mid-'80s to the point that it was getting at Guns N' Roses, where it seemed like, and we were talking about a guy from school who'd come, who was a mod actually. It seemed like everybody was into Guns N' Roses and everybody was into rock at that point. And the popularity, I don't think they were prepared to manage it. And if, of course, you can pay in on the door for a tenner, give you a security man 10 quid to get in, allegedly, then, you know, it's going to lead to problems like that. So I'm just going to mention the two boys that passed away that day. It was Alan Dick, who was 18, and Landon Siggers, who was 20. I mean, we'll talk about, I don't know whether to, I'll talk about it a little bit after the show. Maybe we'll try and get this tragedy bit out of the way. None of us knew that anyone had passed away until the end of the gig, because they didn't announce it until after Maiden had finished. So there was a public announcement at the end of the show that said that sadly 2 people had passed away. And then, of course, everyone's talking and then going back to the campsite. You're just trying to locate your mates. This was before mobiles, obviously. According to Mum and Dad, it had been announced on the 9 o'clock news that night whilst the show was still going on. And I didn't phone my parents till the next day to let them know I was safe and well. And we were worried about, we got some information that one of the guys had got tattoos on his forearms. So we were worried it was one of the guys that was with us. So we were madly trying to track him down. Yeah, it was grim, and it was just an awful finish to the day. And I think one reflection, the thing I keep thinking about, I think if that happened today, the show would have been stopped after Guns N' Roses and everyone would have been sent home. And I think I don't know why they continued it, whether they were worried it was going to be a riot or.
I reckon they would.
Yeah,
definitely worried about that.
So, yeah, just look, sad times. So look, rest in peace, those two guys.
Absolutely.
Fortunately, they're more. The festivals are way more organised now. And you know what? Me and Gappy were at Download a couple of weeks ago for Metallica, and a couple of flashbacks when the crowd surged, didn't you? I mean, down the front there, it was a bit, it was a bit weird, but fortunately, no one near as bad as it was that day. So, anyway, I'm going to come to Jan, Guns N' Roses.
Yeah. For me, just to touch on some of the reports I've seen when I've been doing my homework for this, they don't know how many were there on the day, and that speaks volumes. I've seen figures ranging from 77,000, which I'm guessing is how many officially were there, up to 127,000, which gives you a degree of how many people would have got in without it being official, which is pretty shocking. So I just wanted to touch on that. The numbers are so non-specific, it's mad. But yeah, as far as the gig's concerned, I mean, for GNR, for me and Gav, and I touched on this, so you can check it out on one of our other pods, our Monsters of Rock 1987. We had experience during Anthrax. That was the scariest moment in my life up until that point, when we were caught in exactly the same situation as Guns N' Roses, except without as much of the build-up and without so many people. That frightened the life out of me. That took me and Gav to a place that we'd never been to before. Everything you said, Deal, about how you felt during GNR was how we coped during Anthrax. And I was never going to be in that situation again. So I was out to the side. I was down the front for GNR, desperate to see him. I was to the side. I've never been caught up in the same situation since. And this is however many years ago this is. I've not been in the same situation since. I'm not going to put myself or my kids or whoever I'm with in that position of being front and centre without knowing fully, what the score is. So as far as the band are concerned, as you said, it was pandemonium. I was lucky because I wasn't right in the thick of it. I was to the side. But they were when they came on, they were really heavy. And it was. I remember the songs being fast. It was so odd. Starting with It's So Easy, which strangely enough they opened Glastonbury with. It's So Easy. I was really quite surprised. and into those first 5 songs are all fast, quick. That's the quick version of You're Crazy.
And aggressive.
And aggressive, yeah, really foot stompingly punk metal, whatever you want to call it, sleazy metal, whatever genre you want to say. It was down and dirty, and it was so fast, and that just added, that fueled the passion and the energy that was being felt by however many people were there.
That small window, they were arguably the best band in the world, weren't they? But that small window, in terms of they were the fastest selling debut album of all time with Appetite, and that still stands today.
It's well deserved as well. It's a brilliant album.
They were so hot as a band. And no one knew how long that was going to be lasting for, because no one knew how long they would stay on track. You know,
well, no one knew it was not going to last particularly a long time either. You know, how could a band that brilliant and that big kind of have a patchy career ever since?
Yeah.
But from my perspective, I just remember the aggression. I was like you, Jam. I was right at the back. And I was just in awe of how nasty and dangerous it sounded, and I loved it. You know, it was really good. But you know, I had no idea that there was surges or anything. I don't think I could see the crowd, particularly, you know, the movement of the crowd, and I was fixated on the band anyway. But you know, I would really love to know if someone knows for sure what we mentioned earlier about whether after the announcement for everyone to move back, whether they did deliberately put Patience and Sweet Child of Mine, especially Patience, in, you know, whether that was on the set list or whether they put it in. Because if they put it in, that's genius. Fair play to them.
There was a lot of stuff going on, Gav, around the sides and stuff, and people coming up and talking to them, the security all over the stage, pulling people out. I mean, it was grim down the front. Really, I mean, another one of our group says he remembers seeing one of the guys, you know, and it's as clear as day. He said, you know, they were white when they pulled them out, so he's convinced that was one of the individuals, and that was literally under his feet almost. So, you know, and he's had to live with that. He's never forgotten it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think it was. I'm not sure whether that was on the set list, Gav, but it didn't. It seemed like they'd been told to play it to calm things down.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, and that was on the GNR Lies, you know, which was, I think, was out at the time, or if it wasn't, it was about to come out. Which is obviously, you can see it in the picture there. But for the trivia buffs amongst you, there are numerous versions of that sleeve. The original version is what Dill's holding up there. And they changed out some of the headlines. So Ladies Welcome to the Dark Ages isn't on some later prints, and there's another version that's switching out. So yeah, get your copy and check whether you've got the first press or not. And another indicator is the hype sticker.
Yeah, I think we did. So Gappy, what were your memories from GNR?
Well, I was so hyped for seeing them because I was so into them at the time, and I can remember the lead up to them coming on. I'd left the other 3 guys I'd come with behind, and I'd got, I don't know, maybe a little bit closer to the stage, maybe, I don't know, 30, 40 rows back, something like that. When they came on, it was immediately clear to me that there's absolutely no way I could stay in that. And I'm just so lucky that I'm quite tall and big. I during It's So Easy, I managed to fight, and I'm talking fight my way back out of that crowd. And I've never been so scared in my entire life. It was the worst feeling I've ever had in my entire life. I finally got out, probably during Mr. Brownstone, and I remember just sitting down miles back, and Christ knows how I'd managed to do it, but someone's shoulder bag had actually wrapped itself around my ankles, so I could literally not move my feet at all. So I've been hopping, trying to hop out, and this bag was absolutely really heavy, full of stuff. It took me about, with hands that were shaking, about 20 minutes to get it unwrapped from my legs. And I never even looked in that bag. It was full. It could have been full of cash. It was unlikely, but it could have been full of something, you know, lager or whatever. I never even looked in the bag. And that was pretty much it for that. I just was in a state of shock, and I don't remember anything after getting out of that. Just remember sitting down and being in total shock, which is unfortunate for me. Nothing to what happened to what other people had, you know, yeah. But Christ, because I was so looking forward to seeing them, and it was dreadful. Just so glad it's nothing like that anymore.
if you want to get an indication of the crowd on that day, if you watch the video Paradise City, the second half of that video has a few black and white clips of the crowd jumping up and down and going crazy whilst they were playing, obviously, Paradise City. But obviously it doesn't tell the full story. One other footnote for GNR on that day, they did have a T-shirt for sale, which I did purchase on the day, which was which you'd never buy now. Having a couple of few daughters, that I just wouldn't wear the T-shirt. But there was the Appetite album cover on the front, and on the back there was a robot raping a woman against a wall with Guns N' Roses was here, but underneath Castle Donington with a date on the back. And again, I had that up until about 10 years ago, and if you were looking to get one of those T-shirts, you'd be paying a pretty penny now. So there was triumph and tragedy in that set, but yeah, I mean, with GNR at the time, there was destruction with everything that he did, and sadly, it came to bear on that day. So,
but just as a little footnote, none of us here think that they had anything to do with it.
No, absolutely.
It wasn't their fault in any way, shape, or form.
It was look, and I'll say this carefully, because you don't want to give aspersions around who was to blame, but I think the only thing that we can be sure of, what we'd seen leading up to that festival and a couple of years before that, the probably lack of security, lack of organisation, lack of health and safety. I think it was a perfect storm. You had a band that was massive, everybody wanted to see them, and you wanted to go. And it wasn't just down at Donington at the time, Glastonbury, any festival, you could just flag your way in, no problem. And to your point, Jam, no one had any idea how many people were there. And if you don't know how many people were there, how on earth can you manage it? Because you can't plan for it. You can't plan the security. I think there were issues with the stage. So, look, there was an inquest at, afterwards, and they gave quite a lot of detail around what they thought happened. But ultimately, what we all know for sure is that the festival was cancelled for the following year.
Yeah.
Whilst they sorted themselves out.
And then some of the bigger bands did Milton Keynes Bowl instead.
Yeah, which is a
reminder of the times as well, though, guys. Don't forget, it wasn't illegal. You didn't have to wear a seatbelt in a car. There were certain the health and safety world that we're in now wasn't.
No, it was totally different.
And it was only one year before Hillsborough.
Exactly.
Yeah, of course.
Therein lies more that it was. It's such a tragedy and such a shame that you have to. Sometimes things happen to be able to learn from it. So, yeah.
And by the way, I'm not comparing that to Hillsborough. It was a much smaller scale, but ultimately, 2 people did lose their life on the day. So, okay, we'll leave the tragedy there. Shall we move to the next band? Gappy?
Yeah, it was going to be my second time seeing Megadeth, and obviously I was really looking forward to seeing them because I'd seen them on this tour previously at Hammersmith Odeon with my brother, and looking forward to them, really looking forward to them. But the thing is, I was in such a state of shock that I really don't remember much about them at all, to be honest with you. I remember Set the World Afire. I do remember that song because it's such a great song. Yeah. I really can't say too much about them because I don't remember too much because my brain was in a different place. I was just glad to be alive at the time. So it's a real shame, but I keep saying it's a real shame, but never mind. I've seen them 10 times since then, so all's good.
Okay, good. Jam?
I mean, for me, I do remember it's the first time I'd seen Megadeth, and I wasn't a massive fan. For me, it kicked in for me with Countdown to Extinction. Loved them. But this is the first time I properly seen them, and I thought they were decent. I remember, don't know why, I remember Mary Jane. I don't know. I remember Mary Jane when I look back in Peace Sells, and of course, as I've covered off before, I remember the encore being. I don't like covers as encores, and I remember thinking, "Oh, it's a Pistols song." So true to form, I was thinking, "Oh well, there we go." But I thought they were decent, and they played a decent, tight set. But nothing special, but decent. Do you know what I mean?
It's very surprising they played These Boots, actually, which is a very strange song.
I don't remember that at all.
No, it doesn't stick
from my memory.
Yeah.
Gav, any memories from Megadeth?
Yeah, I really like this album, and I like the direction they were going in on this. So yeah, I enjoyed the songs from the album, and than this era of the band, to be honest. Probably one of my favourites. But yeah, Anarchy in the UK, that came out as a single as well. I don't know if it was already out for this gig or whether it came out afterwards. But I've got a shaped picture disc of the UK as a cover.
I'm sure it came out before because I had it on 12-inch.
Yeah,
fairly sure.
Yeah, so that's you know, and Lars seems to be popping up wherever he can in in photos and whatever. So yeah, another case where Lars interacts with Megadeth. Yeah,
exactly.
Megadeth.
Yeah, you know, Dave and Lars love each other. Dave and James don't love each other. Simple as that, really, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's that's a bit odd why he's still whining on about it, but bless his heart. There you go.
Yeah. I got the poster
with
it.
It's a fantastic album. It really is so good.
It's a great album. Yeah, and
production is not very good on it, unfortunately.
I quite like it. The drummer was watching Helloween. I remember seeing him at the side of the stage with his Zildjian t-shirt on, checking out the crowd and probably getting extremely nervous.
Yeah.
I probably a bit like a couple of you guys. I don't really remember. I'd seen them earlier in the year at Hammersmith Odeon, but again, I think after the shock of the set before, I don't really remember much of Megadeth at all. So,
should we move on?
Probably move on to Dave, Diamond Dave. So, Gav, do you want to kick us off with Diamond?
Yeah. I mean, this was another. I mean, if you think about it, you know, we're saying most of these bands are at their peak or near their peak at this point, and I think that he probably was in his solo work here, arguably. If you listen, it's on YouTube. If you watch it on YouTube, it's every song is played so fast. You know, when you think about some of the songs are fast anyway, you know, like Hot for Teacher, obviously. It's quite interesting. And not to go back to the tragedy thing, but quite a lot of the set is broken up with him having to say people move back and step back, and I think the press originally said it was during his set, but it wasn't, as we know. But yeah, cracking blend of Van Halen and DLR songs here, and I really enjoyed it. It's good fun band to watch.
Cool, Jan.
At the time, bearing in mind this is 4 years following my crowning glory of Donington '84, seeing Van Halen there, seeing DLR then return. I was a massive Van Halen fan, and
supporting AC/DC, yeah.
Huh?
Supporting AC/DC.
Yes, I thought I loved Eddie Van Halen, which I do and did and have forever. But 4 years later, you've got Dave Lee Roth producing what he was producing and playing the live show with the set he was doing, and you had Van Hagar doing a different thing. I'm not going to lie, I was Dave Lee Roth all day long. I was so Dave Lee.
In his camp.
I just loved it, and I was like, it was just ultimate. And then he picks and chooses the Van Halen songs. He picks and chooses, just brilliant. And Talk About Love's my all-time favourite Van Halen song. And yeah, it's just bad. It's just really, really good, really strong. I think, did he come back to Wembley Arena in the fall? America.
I was going to ask you whether this was before the Wembley Arena gig or after.
It was before. I believe that was like October, November time, and he smashed it at Wembley Arena as well. So he was riding a crest of a massive wave.
November.
November. There you go. And he was brilliant. And Steve Vai was a natural. He's just a special guitarist.
Yeah. Actually, I forgot to mention, you know, he does the talky bit, the interaction where the guitar talks.
Yes.
Yankee Rose.
Yeah. Dave got him to say Donington in the same way.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah,
I don't remember that.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
I need to listen back. But yeah, for me, it was brilliant. It was properly brilliant, I thought. And yeah, he was on a real way. But to be third on the bill, quite surprising, really. But yeah, really, really good.
Excellent. Gappy?
Yeah, obviously I was a massive, massive Dave fan. Bit like Jam, really. I tried to get into Van Hagar. I bought the albums, but Skyscraper for me was Dave's crowning glory. It was better than the first album, in my opinion.
Even Smile.
Even Smile.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, I much preferred it. The production was better. There was so much more variation on that album. Hot Dog and a Shake. Skyscraper's a weird song to put on that set, but it's one of my favourite songs off that album, and it's just cracking. Knuckle Bones, and to do Hot for Teacher, Just Like Paradise, which we'd all heard as a single, brilliant. The one that sticks out for me is California Girls, which is a really weird one to do at a festival, but I imagine it went down quite well. Yeah, I never really got You Really Got Me. I've never liked the Van Halen cover, didn't like it, and then to end up with Jump, which is obviously got the crowd going mental. I don't know if he did, because when we saw him at Wembley, he actually plays the lead guitar intro for Hot for Teacher from behind Steve Vai. He actually does it on the guitar with Steve Vai's guitar on Steve Vai. I don't know if he did it there, but that was one of the most amazing things I've ever seen for Dave to actually be able to do that. I can't remember whether he did it at Download. Download. What am I saying? Donington. Yeah. So if someone could please say whether he actually did that, then that would be a really good thing to know for me.
Brilliant. Okay, a couple of great memories there. I remember watching him, but I was still trying to get out of the crowd, and I remember feeling really frustrated. Even being halfway back, it just seemed to take forever to try and get into a bit of open space, and it just pushed him. Feeling really claustrophobic still. I think I was still suffering from an hour or so earlier. So yeah, good. Much more relaxed the following week in Germany. I'm not going to lie, and managed to enjoy him far more there. So shall we move on to the next band? You wanted the best, you've got the best, which of course was Kiss. So, Jam, what do you remember from Kiss?
Oh, I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. I remember Firehouse. I remember it blowing my mind. I thought they were really good. They were really tight. They were quite heavy. I haven't listened to this back, but I remember them being quite heavy. We'd got used to. We've covered quite a bit of Kiss on quite a few pods lately. And following the tours of 83, 84, where they were kind of, I think, trying to find themselves out of makeup. It got to this stage, they had the massive pop hit of Crazy, Crazy Nights, UK-wise, I think, and Europe-wise, if I'm right in saying. Yep. But they came second on the bill at Donington with a cracking set. I mean, we can take Tears Are Falling Out, but some people like it. I think Gappy. But yeah, the actual set, it's got a really decent balanced vibe. They got some crackers in there, some real storming firehouses, calling Dr. Love's Love Gun, and I thought they smashed it out the park. I thought they were great.
Okay, cool, Gav.
Yeah, I agree. Not much more to say. I mean, the set list is pretty fantastic, and I think they were not only finding their sound, but they were finding their look after some abysmal wigs and makeup they'd been wearing in their non-makeup era. You know, they look all right, and you know they really were on top form. Paul's voice was great, as I recall, and yeah, the blend of the old and the new actually seemed to work. It was absolutely fine. Thought they were great.
Cool, Gappy.
Yeah, what I remember about Kiss, I was so looking forward to hearing No No No, which it splits a lot of people, but I think it's one of the best songs off Crazy Nights. And it's on the B-side of the Crazy Nights single. And when that came out, it was just so different with Bruce Kulick doing some lead guitar, which is out of this world at the beginning. So I was really looking forward to hearing that. But looking at the set list there, I mean, it's got favourites off lots of my albums. I mean, you've got Fits Like a Glove, which is one of the greatest songs I've ever done. Lick It Up off that album is brilliant. No No No's fantastic. Calling Dr. Love, Love It Loud. What a fantastic set that was.
Yeah.
And they played 17 songs as well as a support. You don't get that. You don't get that now. It's mental. That's very good. The only thing I didn't like about it was Paul Stanley playing his what we would have called back in the day cricket bat guitar.
Yeah.
Which was a bit. Yeah, didn't really like that. But
you loved it, didn't you?
Look at that picture in the top there. I mean, what a dude. I mean, he's unreal, isn't he?
We didn't like anything with guitars like that, though. We didn't like when they didn't have a head.
No, the headstop. No, we just didn't like it.
We like traditional, stupid shaped guitars were okay, but not anything modern.
It wasn't metal, was it?
No,
it really wasn't.
No,
well, would ever profess to being metal, but we don't call them a metal band. And look at Gene and Bruce in their leathers. You know, they're not a metal band. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, anyway, look, they were great. It's a good set list. I'd managed to get to somewhere that felt relatively comfortable, quite a long way from the stage, and watched them much further back. I was content with that because I'd seen them a couple of days earlier at the Marquee at the warm-up show, and I was on the front row for that one. And if you want to find out more about that, that's on another podcast. But yeah, great set, some brilliant songs. A lot of my favourites on there, like Juice, Lick It Up, Cold Gin, Love Gun. I like Tears Are Falling as well, and they still play that.
I actually like Tears Are Falling as well.
Really a lot of people hate it, but I really like that song. So yeah, it was great, really good. So yeah, finally the heavy metal giants, England, London's heavy metal giants, Iron Maiden, had finally managed to headline Monsters of Rock, and boy did they deserve it. And this was part of the Seventh Son tour. And we've been to the previous couple of tours prior to that. So there've been a lot working up to this time, but these were worthy headliners without any shadow of a doubt. And I think you could argue with headliners up. There've been a couple of dodgy ones maybe on some of the years leading up to this. I don't think anyone disagreed that these guys should and deserve to headline Monsters of Rock in '88. So Gappy, any memories from this set and from this gig in particular?
Yeah, I was finally back in the game for Maiden. I'd got right. It wasn't right at the back, but I was close to the back. And when Moonchild started up, I went absolutely mental. Absolutely love that song. It's a brilliant start. And then they go into Evil At Men Do and The Prisoner, which is my favourite song off Number of the Beast. Again, I went absolutely mental for that. And yeah, it was a brilliant set. Brilliant set.
Excellent. Jam?
It was a barnstorming set, in my opinion. Probably only going to be bettered, in my opinion, by the one we're going to see very shortly at the O2 in London.
It's going to be better, of course, because they're playing Alexander the Great for the first time.
Yeah. Death of the Celts. Now, for this one, though, as a headliner at Donington, they actually had a proper big stage set. They actually had a mental. Typical Maiden. We've spoken about Maiden. Check out our other pods. We've spoken about Maiden and how they blew us away in '84 when they came to little old Oxford and they squeezed their massive bloody set that they take to Long Beach Arena. Scream for me. Squeezing that into Oxford. This was them in the world that they needed to be in. They were in front of 100,000 people and they bought the set. They bought the set list and they were awesome. And the legacy continues as we speak. That set's amazing. The actual stage set was brilliant, and they just brought it on brilliantly, I thought. So yeah, massive.
Brilliant. Awesome, mate.
Yeah,
it's a really good point, Jam, about the stage show.
Yeah,
they were always trying to stay in theatres, weren't they? And they always preferred in the UK to do that, multiple nights in a theatre rather than a big venue. So yeah, that's a really good point. It's probably the first time we've seen the whole widescreen set, and boy, they were great. And this is when they always have a really strong image for every album, but this was a really good visual image as well to go with the new album. Yeah, I thought they were great.
They were, sorry, just to again mention, I know Gav and I were talking about this the other night. This was the Maiden England live set, and I know that was taken from Birmingham NEC. So they weren't playing because they were now an arena band. They weren't just, they were proper arena band selling out multiple nights at arenas. So it was only natural if they were going to go on to conquer the world as we've seen them, as them and Metallica being arguably the two big boys in the world as we speak now. They set up to where they are now, and they find themselves playing these massive stadiums. And this felt like their first step into that, and they just took to it brilliantly, didn't they? So yeah,
they did. They were fantastic. Much like you, Gappy, I was at the back. I was happy with the safety of where I was. I do remember it being really cold, and I always go very prepared to festivals now to be warm in the day and warm in the evening as well. So I always have extra attire for the evening part of the session. But if you look at the running of that set from the 12th song, Number of the Beast, Hallowed Be Thy Name, Iron Maiden, Run to the Hills, 22 Acacia Avenue, 2 Minutes to Midnight, Running 3, Sanctuary. I mean, amazing, absolutely fantastic. You pay the money just to see those few songs on their own, wouldn't you? So yeah, they were fantastic on the day. As I've mentioned, and if we just go on to the next slide, Gav. Just switching that over. As I've mentioned, right at the end of the set, it was only then that we had any inclination that there had been issues or problems. Well, we knew there'd been issues or problems, but we didn't know the severity of what had happened. Yeah. So I think, you know, that's a chilling picture, that guy's face down the front, begging to be pulled out. But I think the Krang actually got it spot on, the triumph and tragedy.
Yeah, that's a good, poignant cover, isn't it?
Really, very much so.
I don't think Maiden knew when they went on either.
No,
I think they weren't told, which they were angry about.
Yeah,
afterwards. But I think another point about Maiden headlining Donington was the sense of pride. You know, it's the ultimate British festival, and we had a band big enough to headline it. You know, it was
right.
Really cool feeling.
Yeah, because Bon Jovi the year before, and I know we've discussed that on a previous pod. Yeah. So yeah, good for them. So let's get a bit more upbeat again. The following week, Gavin and I went off on our travels to Germany again.
Trooped off.
Yeah, and it was a far more civil atmosphere. We stayed in a lovely little Ibis hotel, or Novotel, I think it was, in Cologne. We did a bit of sightseeing around, went to the cathedral up the bell tower, and sung a bit of Hell's Bells at the top of the bell tower, and then went out on the town in Cologne and had a brilliant day at the festival. And it was in a stadium, so what we found was really good, actually. We found some seats, didn't we, or some terrace where we'd managed to pitch ourselves, and a couple of us were going down the front and coming back, and then a couple were going off and going down, you know, and coming back. And it was just, compared to the week before, it was extremely civilized, and it was
complete contrast. Yeah, you could sit, you could watch it in comfort.
Yeah,
and really take in the bands. And as you can see, there are very different bands. That kind of generic poster that covers the whole Monsters of Rock 88 included all the bands. So we weren't really sure who were going to. We know that there was a bit of a switch out. Megadeth switched out for Testament, I think. So we didn't really know who we were going to get on the day. No Helloween for us this time. No Guns N' Roses. But I mean, definitely seeing Kiss, Dave Lee Roth, Maiden again, absolutely fabulous, and top quality ticket as well.
Yeah, it's brilliant. and Anthrax as well. You forgot to mention they were brilliant on the day.
Anthrax, yeah.
Okay, excellent, fantastic. So there you have it. That is Monsters of Rock 1988. Like I said at the front end, fairly near the beginning of the podcast, huge shout out to the families of Alan Dick and Landon Siggers, and rest in peace for both of those guys. And if nothing else, at least you can say the festivals are run much better now, and I don't think there's much chance of anything like that happening again, touch wood. And I can say that, and so can the other guys, having been to Donington Park many times post that, and it's a completely different ball game now, as we, you know, even a couple of weeks ago. So that finishes it for today. Hope you enjoyed that. If you'd like to see some more of discussions and previous Monsters of Rock years, you can check us out on Facebook on Tales from the PowerAge. We're on Twitter, Tales from the PowerAge, at TTFTBR. Online at www.talesfromthepowerage.com. And if you want some merch, you can buy some from redbubble.com, merchandise, TFB PowerAge. So hope you've enjoyed it. We certainly have. It's been nice to talk about some of those old days. See you again soon. Take care. Bye.
Cheers, boys. Thanks, everyone.
Cheers, guys.